Hi, my name is Dave Wiesler. I'm a pianist who lives in Newark, Delaware. I've been playing piano for English country dance music for over 30 years. I got my start in the Washington, D.C. area in 1992. And since then I've played in camps and festivals across the country. I've gotten a lot of experience in playing. I've done some teaching workshops as well in how to play for English country dance. In 2024, in August, I went to Pinewoods for the English Week that they have there. And I did a workshop there I called Harmony and Wallpaper for English country dance musicians. What is harmony and what is wallpaper? I'll describe these in more detail, and I'll put them first into a broader context. I also want to give a caveat about the content that I'm giving here, because when you say English country dance music, it means something a little different in the United States than it does in the United Kingdom. Thanks largely to the bare necessities model and what they did in the 1970s and 80s. In the United States, it's improvisational, it's very spontaneous, there's a lot of give and take. People take the melody and then they don't play the melody, even though they're a melody instrument. And so harmony and wallpaper is really, what do you do as a melody player when you're not taking the melody? And you also have to make it sound like you're not hijacking the melody by playing something else that is distracting away from the melody. So I think of English country dance playing in sort of three tiers. There's the first tier, which is basic musicianship, how to play your instrument very well. There's a second tier, which has to do with what are the different roles you have as a musician in English country dance playing. And then there's a third tier, which has to do with what is your awareness of what's happening on the floor and what's happening among your bandmates and what the dancers need and things like this. So let's talk about the first tier, the musicianship tier. It sits in two different places. There's a basic musicianship, which you need for pretty much everything you're doing. If you are a wind player, you need to have embouchure control. You need to know where the notes are on your instrument. If you're a fiddler, you have to have bow control. You have to be able to keep things in tune. Touch on the piano, being able to have proprioception, where you can, know from one place to another, go from, octaves down, etc. All sorts of things having to do with basic musicianship. You might have to know how to follow a conductor. You might have to know how to play in an ensemble. You might have to know how to adjust your tuning so that you're in tune with the other people around you. There's another part of musicianship which is specific to English country dance playing. That is playing without a conductor, for example. That is being able to communicate that you're going out at the next round without anybody telling you specifically. You have to be able to listen to each other. There are things having to do with playing in a particular way for the dancers and the dance that's going on in a way to support them. Being able to keep the tempos really steady by yourself without somebody telling you to keep the tempo steady. Variety of things like this. The second tier, and that's what we're going to talk about in this workshop, is what is your specific role? And I think of these roles in three different ways. There's a person who's playing a melody, there's a person who's playing the rhythm, and the third role is the person who could be playing the melody but isn't playing the melody right now. And they have to do something when they're playing that supports the melody and supports the dance without hijacking the melody and making it sound like they're just playing something else that's now a new melody. That's actually surprisingly difficult to do, and there's different tricks that we're talk about. You can play harmony parts, or you can play what I call a wallpaper, which is an unobtrusive but supporting role. And then the third tier, which I'm not going to get into this, but I want to just put it into context. The third tier has to do with awareness, because there's a lot of stuff happening on the floor when you're playing for English country dance. You have to pay attention to your other bandmates, you have to pay attention to the caller. Sometimes the wind might knock your music over, and you have to be able to keep the rhythm going as you're picking up the piece of music that you're playing. There might be things happening on the floor that you have to pay attention to. There's always things that are happening on the floor that you have to pay attention to, like, are the dancers in the right place? Are you playing rhythmically strongly enough that they actually know where they are and they're not getting confused. And so there's a tracking thing. That awareness is what I find really interesting about English country dancing, but when I've done workshops on it, a lot of times that's just one step too high because people are still working on what I call the lower tiers. So we're going to try to solidify these lower tiers, particularly this part called Harmony and Wallpaper, in this video series before we move on to these other pieces. So I'm going to circle back now on the special skills that you need to be an English country dance musician, as opposed to just a regular musician of some other sort. When you go to a dance, you're going to see a piece of music that is called a lead sheet. It has a melody line and it has chords above it that tell you what the chords are going to be. But if you're a pianist, for example, and you're going to be playing the rhythm section, what do you do with this chord? You'd have to know what rhythm to put it into. You have to know how to accompany this type of thing to make it supportive for the dance. And nobody tells you how to do that. If you're playing the melody, sure, you can just read the melody, that's fine. But if you ever want to make any sort of variation on the melody, well, how do you make that variation? So you need to know how to do something as a melody player or as the lead player that's not exactly the melody. And then, supposing you're playing a melody instrument, but it's not your turn to play melody. I mean, maybe you could decide to play the melody in a different octave, or you could just double up the melody, but supposing you want to do something else, well, what do you do? Nobody's telling you what to do on that, and so that's a special skill that we're going to work on in this video series. You need to be able to see a chord chart and know what notes are in that chord chart, so you could maybe make an arpeggio off of that, or play some note that's in that chord that's not going to clash with the melody. And then you also are going to need to have some sort of idea about how to play by ear. Now you can ask yourself, why do I need to know how to play by ear? The music is all out there and I have chords, and so maybe this isn't an important skill, but I think it's a really important skill, and that's where this video series picks up.